We're gonna talk postseason or off season stuff.
Yeah, our favorite. We're here with
Yeah.
Sam Sheehan on the Celtics blog podcast, making his return for round 2. He did so well the first time that we brought him back.
I promise to. Well, I don't promise. I will make an attempt to make less jokes. Luckily, no crazy Sixers news, so that should make things easy on me. There's absolutely nothing I could get off topic about or go on wild tangents about. So, thank God we can just focus on the Celtics offseason. I can say right now on the podcast, if it ever comes out that I have any, different Twitter accounts, maybe satire or otherwise, that would just be so embarrassing for me, and everyone should absolutely make fun of me for it. But that'll never happen because I don't have any.
I was gonna ask, are you the most likely Celtics blog writer to have a burning account? Can we give you that superlative?
I would say I would say that's probably pretty safe, though. I wouldn't sleep on Doxy. I wouldn't sleep on Doxy.
Marcus Smart, in his exit interview, or rumbling around the Garden after the Game 7, said he thinks he's worth above the 12 to 14 million projected for his contract to be going forward if he is to sign long-term with the Celtics or someone else this summer. He's the most obvious housekeeping they have to take care of this summer. So I decided to pull you on here to crunch the numbers, give us a little preview of what we can expect from the Celtics when it comes to their free agents, as well as their cap positioning going into this summer. We don't have the cap numbers. I'm sure we have a sort of idea of where they're going to be. But as of now, I would imagine the Celtics are above the cap, below the luxury tax, correct?
Yep, exactly. And I think that what we're going to see, probably like the most interesting thing is, from what I've heard from people who are smarter than me, they've said that this is not the gambling money isn't going to make much of a difference. I thought that might have been a game changer. It seems like that's not going to do too much to the cap. I think most people probably have their estimates around a 101, 102 million in the cap, so that's interesting. The Celtics face something interesting. Not getting the Lakers pick, they suddenly have an option where, or not have the option. It makes a path a little bit clearer to stay below the luxury tax this year coming. And I know that a lot of fans out there are going to hear me say, well, why would you stay below the tax when you have a team that was one win away from the finals without 2 All-Stars? Like, that's insane. You've got to spend all this money. You got to spend the money right now. Let's spend the money, keep the team together, run it back. Let's go, win a title. And, that very well might happen. But the reason that this is a problem is the Celtics are going to face serious luxury tax issues 3 to 4 years down the line.
And that's why that gambling money becomes important, because if you see another spike in 3 to 4 years, that makes that smart money down the line project a little better, correct?
Correct. But smarter people than me, I don't know what that gambling money will look like. I don't know how it'll end up. Smarter than people than me seem to think it's not going to do that much. I mean, maybe it might change. Things we might not know about VR innovations or something like that might come up, if that takes off and suddenly you got people, that's suddenly another contract that some
the 2K league.
Well, some like PlayStation picks up to stream with their VR headset or Samsung or something that would be a whole nother big contract that would, make a sizable difference. But that's really, even in like the best case scenarios, it really doesn't. I don't think it's going to move it's not going to move the line like the 20 million we saw in 2016. It's probably going to be more like 2 million, 3 million, maybe 5 million at the most.
So when I look at the smart contract right now, I do think the back end of it is a bigger concern than the front end of it, because 12 to 14, 15, 16 million dollars next year bumps you above the tax probably. But then down the line with other contracts that they're going to have to negotiate between Irving, possibly Rozier, and then Jaylen Brown the next year, that gets you way above the tax.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing. The big problem, so to speak, is that Kyrie Irving is wildly underpaid right now because he signed his contract before the cap spike. Not only that, he signed it while he was still in the 0 to 6 year experience bracket, which means he's getting paid only 25% of the salary cap, or what it was when he signed his contract, with the requisite 6% raises. So he's only getting paid $20 million next year, a little bit more. So you compare that to Gordon Hayward's $30 million. That's a big difference. That $10 million. He's has an opt-out in 2019. He's almost definitely going to take, because he's just going to get so much more money on this new cap, and where his experience bucket is. That's not to say he wants to leave the Celtics. Just that's smart to take the opt-out and get more money, and he should. He deserves more money than that. So when that kicks in, and it's the same year Al Horford has his opt-out. It's the last year of Jaylen Brown's contract. They're going to be 1 year away from Jason Tatum's contract. If they bring back Al Horford and Kyrie Irving on maxes, and then they're giving
isn't
max,
Irving after next year, and then Horford's the year after? Horford has 2 years left, I believe.
He has 2 years, but one of them is a player option, so it depends on what you think. Like he and Irving both have player options in 2019. Al's he's not as much of a lock to opt out of, I think, is where the math gets a little weird, because he has $30 million. He could possibly get more money than that. He could possibly not. He could, if he's coming off a big year. It really depends on what Al Horford looks like this year. I think if Al Horford had the player option for this year, he'd opt out, because he's been unreal. He was unreal this year, and he could get a max for even in his age right now. But we got to kind of remember, even as it seems like Al Horford is, kind of older, KG was pretty old when he came to the Celtics, and he's still, he was in his, early 30s when he came to the Celtics, and he had a lot of good years here on the Celtics. He did get hurt, but he was effective for almost a half decade beyond when he first came here. So Al Horford is another moving piece. The bottom line here is that the Celtics are going to be into the tax definitely for this foreseeable future beyond this thing. The repeater tax was specifically designed to make super teams like the Celtics are going to have impossible to hold together. So this is, why it's important for the Celtics to stay below the tax next year, is because it saves them a year of being in the repeater tax later on down the line. Once you're in the tax for 3 out of 4 years, that third year you end up in what's called the repeater tax. And the repeater tax, all the money goes way up, and it's not like $5 million here, $5 million there. We're talking about, the payroll could literally be the cost. As Ryan Bernardoni put it in a Celtics Hub piece, it could literally be the cost of the franchise, like what Wick and the guys paid for the Celtics when they bought it. So it is an extreme amount of money. And something as simple as staying, spending $3 million less this year and staying below the tax could be a difference of, as large as $20 million.
So how's that into the smart negotiations, you believe?
I think that what that means is that they've got to kind of be smart, no pun intended, about what they're going to do with Marcus. His qualifying offer is going to be, his cap hold's going to be about $13 million. He's going to have, there's a chance he could take the qualifying offer. That wouldn't be the end of the world. Basically, if the Celtics do pay him right around what his cap hold is, or $12 million, $13 million, something like that, they are floating right around the tax line. They're probably about $2 million under the tax line, something like that. That doesn't account for Aron Baynes. That doesn't account for Shane Larkin, and that doesn't account for Greg Monroe. So Aron Baynes is obviously kind of the standout there. You probably want to bring back Aron Baynes.
So when it comes to Baynes, you said he's capable of coming back non-bird rights, about $5 million, right?
Yeah, like about $5.6 million.
Now, could he come back on the regular mid-level exception, which is 8? He
could. There's some interesting thoughts on that. So there's there's some more arcane cap stuff here, where if you do use the full mid-level exception, you hard cap yourself at the apron, which is about $5 million over the tax line. Ryan in his roster reload, if you don't check that out that's a really good piece. Ryan Bernardoni, if you go on his Twitter, he lays out some of this stuff. But the most important, what he believes, I'm not sure I necessarily agree, is that they want to stay flexible and they wouldn't hard cap themselves like that under any circumstances. Yep. Because if a trade does come up for Anthony Davis or Kawhi Leonard or one of these guys, and you do need to go over the apron to get one of those guys, in an extreme situation like that, you want to have the flexibility to do so,
Mm-hmm. So in a hard cap scenario, you can't do that trade flexibility where you're a few million off each way.
Yeah, I mean, like you absolutely cannot go over that hard cap line. So, even if you have you can have contracts within a certain amount and send them matching contracts back. But if it's more than that $5 million, you don't want that to be the reason that you weren't able to do the thing because you overspent on.
So that makes it unlikely Baynes comes back on the 8. It's going to be the 5.
I would say it's more likely he comes back on the 5. There's also what's called the taxpayer mid-level exception, which does not hard cap you. That's a whole nother thing. It would give the Celtics. It'd be cool if the Celtics could preserve their taxpayer mid-level or their mid-level exception. If they could get Baynes back on that 5.6 non-bird rights, that would give them another tool for signing players. There's other things like trading Marcus Morris. Like, where does Marcus Morris fit in once Gordon Hayward is back?
That's only $5 million or so, though, which in the long run doesn't change too much relative to his value of the team. We're splitting hairs here, though. Do you think the market is going to be there for Smart to get what he's looking for, especially when there's other top dogs out there?
I really don't think so. I really, really don't think so. I don't know. Teams have been stupid before, but looking around the landscape, it's tight out there. It's real tight out there for some of these guys. Someone like JJ Redick might be up a tree. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's, I think considered for more teams, he's more easy to fit in than Marcus Smart. Mm-hmm. It's hard. Marcus Smart is perfect where he is on the Celtics as a 6-man hyper glue guy, do everything, chaos Smarf.
Yeah.
He can't really be your lead guard. I mean, we've all watched Marcus for 4 years now. We know what he is and what he isn't. He is not. He needs to be guarded as a shooter, no matter how bad he is. He's made himself into a shooter that needs to be guarded. He can't. It's not like Tony Allen. I think some of the national guys, say that you just don't guard Marcus Smart. That doesn't work. And we
saw in his absence this year how vital a piece to the defense he was. They slipped off substantially after the LA picture incident that Danny Ainge was joking about in the exit interviews very cleverly. It's going to be, so do you think there's the qualifying offer is the best case solution, or not best case? I think best case is a fair deal for both sides, because then he goes into unrestricted free agency next year and you probably lose him in that case. But the qualifying offer probably brings you in under the tax for next year's team.
That would definitely would, and then you could probably bring in Baynes and, without having to trade Marcus Morris or Yabu or any of these other, guys. Terry Rozier is kind of the other part of this. Is it worth? You got to think about Terry Rozier. I don't think there's really any way they're going to be able to extend or keep Terry Rozier if they figure Kyrie Irving to be a big part of the team's plans going forward.
Yeah.
And I think they do. He's very good. So I know I love Terry, but we're talking about Kyrie Irving, who could be one of the top 10 players in the NBA when he's on. So I really think that you can't, there's not really a way for the Celtics to, play. There's a chance they trade him around the trade deadline. I don't know what kind of market there will be for him, particularly after Game 7, when that's the most recent thing on everyone's minds with regards to him. And I don't know. I'm not sure he is as versatile as Marcus is. You know what I'm saying? He kind of needs the ball a little bit more. We kind of saw in the playoffs how he can be targeted. More so, he's definitely targeted more on defense than Smart was on offense. And I think that that's kind of going to be the rub here. But at the same time, if you're trading Terry Rozier, you also don't have him in a year when the Celtics might win the title. So it might be worth it to, even if you know that you're going to lose him in restricted free agency when someone throws a huge offer sheet at him next year, it might be worth it just for that crack at the title to, keep Terry Rozier on the team, have him be that super sub, and just have this insane rotation of guys who are starter level players in the NBA that go 8 deep,
Even diving into the tax might be worth that. It obviously puts you on a bad run going forward for the next 4 years, as you talked about, but it might be worth it if you really get hammered by the Smart contract. If there is an offer sheet out there that forces your hands just a little bit, you might have to just bite the bullet and dive into it this year, even though this year probably is the prime year to stay out of it. Do you think there's a cutoff Smart salary that they're just going to have to say no to?
I would be surprised if they matched anything $14 million or over. I would be shocked if any team gave it to him. Not only offer sheets, getting players in restricted free agency is, it's tough.
Yeah.
Outside of 2016, it hasn't really happened that often, and that's why we saw guys like Greg Monroe and Nerlens Noel take the qualifying offer, because the market's not really there a lot of years when you're trying to, go get guys, and you're tying up money for 2 days on a guy you don't know if you're going to get. Like, why would you throw all this money at Marcus Smart when there's an unrestricted free agent over here who you can negotiate and make sure that you're going to get him and know exactly what's going on, and then you haven't wasted those 2 days in free agency.
It ties up your cap for multiple days, and the teams with cap space are going to be moving fast. You look at Philly, Los Angeles; they're going to be moving at the big players in free agency, and it's not worth it to tie up their cap space. So it really is far and few between the teams that can offer from not only a fit perspective but money perspective too, which works to Boston's benefit. Free agency starts July 1st. But first, we're going to watch some finals fun and get these jokes off about the 76ers. You can follow him at Sam Sheehan, read him at CelticsBlog.com. We'll talk to you soon, Sam.
All right. Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it.